Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Logistics Executive TV and our leadership series. And I'm joined today by a gentleman who wears a number of hats. He is currently the Global Vice President for Quality, Safety and Sustainability at a company called Newcold. He is the Chairman of the Refrigerated Warehouse and Transport Association of Australia, and he's a board member of the World Food Logistics Organizations, which is part of the GCCA in the US. My pleasure to introduce Graham Harvey. Hey, Graham, how are you doing?
Very well, Kim, and thank you very much for the opportunity to chat with you today. Much appreciated.
Thanks for joining us in sunny, where are you today? Australia somewhere.
Yeah, no, I'm based in Melbourne, so it is sunny, and we've got the Australian Open on at the moment, so we're having very good weather for it.
Excellent. Of course you have. Yeah, and just about down to the finals. So, Graham, thanks for taking the time to come on the show. Maybe you could start by letting us know a little bit about Newcold. I think Newcold's certainly one of the largest cold chain companies in the world, based out of Europe originally, yeah?
Yeah, it's based out of the Netherlands. Our head office is in Breda in the Netherlands. We're a refrigerated global warehousing and transport company. Been operating now as Newcold for just over 10 years. We had our 10-year celebration a few months ago. Look, we're a rapidly expanding company. We're using state-of-the-art automation and facilities, and very rapid growth, and very exciting time to be in Newcold.
Brilliant. And you and I bumped into each other last year at the RWTA, Refrigerated Warehouse and Transport Association conference in Sydney. You're the chairman of that organisation. Tell us a little bit about the RWTA.
Yeah, look, I was had the pleasure of being elected as chairman at our board meeting last August, which was just before the conference. So, it was a great honour to accept that role. Look, we represent the refrigerated warehouse and transport companies in Australia. We're the preeminent cold chain association, and it's an excellent organisation where members can deal with industry issues and network, and we've been rapidly growing and very successful in the last few years, and the conference you referred to was an excellent event last August.
And you're part of you're affiliated with the GCCA, and that's based out of the US.
Yeah, look, they're our major affiliation that we have, and the Global Cold Chain Alliance. And the RWTA have been together for a number of years. It's great to be part of a global organisation. We, have their resources at hand, and we can, network and go to their conferences and other events, which are very good events around the world. So really proud to be and happy to be part of their association.
They come up with an amazing amount of data and information on the industry globally, as I recall from that conference. So that was very insightful. Graham, I want to talk to you today about the cold chain sector, both from Australia and a global perspective. Some of the big issues at the moment. I mean, the cold chain is an absolutely essential part of the worldwide global network of, especially in regards, well, you've got pharmaceutical, but your organisation is more concerned with food and food security. Tell us about the current scenario in Australia. We had a lot of disruptions. Australia is a big country, 26 million people, but a long way away from a lot of the hubs of the world. What's been happening in cold chain, and especially over the last 2 or 3 years with the disruption that's been occurring?
Yeah, look, I think we could spend a lot of time going into a lot of detail, but I mean, we are an industry that's had a number of issues that have impacted us. A lot of that is the results of events happening around the world, but the impact of energy costs, the impact of Labour shortages in Australia have been quite significant, particularly, during and post-COVID. We've got natural disasters occurring. As I said, we've got the global effects of, inflation and geopolitical tensions happening as well. So a lot of disruptions and a lot of issues that the cold chain's dealing with in Australia. And to be honest, I would say all cold chains around the world, when you look at labour issues and energy, are hurting and seeing some significant cost impacts.
Sure. I want to come back to labour and staffing and retention and attraction in a minute. But over the last, say, 6 months or year or so, Australia, apart from 2 years ago, once in a generation fires that happened across Australia, in the last 3 or 4 months, there have been catastrophic flooding, virtual inland seas the size of some countries in Europe right across Australia. How has that affected the supply of food and cold chain and transport, and particularly as part of the cold chain?
Yeah, I think, you mentioned it at the start of the discussion. The cold chain is significant carrier of chilled and frozen food in this country. And, the floods, the fires a few years ago, the floods have impacted road and rail movements, which just causes shortages and disruptions. But it's not only in the final delivery, it's also in the supply of containers, of transport routes. And we lost the train line west of Melbourne with washouts and other things. The impact of trains being out for several days or weeks, and to the natural flow of frozen goods across the bottom of Australia is something you can't discount. It is very significant. So natural disasters are impacting, but it's also going further down, even into the producers of food. And we deal with one of the potato companies, and the weather we've had, the effect of rain, the effect of washouts has delayed the crop, and that's caused a shortage. We're seeing supermarkets limit supplies of, limit purchases of finished product. Producers can't produce, they can't get raw materials, they can't, keep the supply chain in balance that they normally would. So, these things will take months, sometimes a year, when you look at seasonal crops to go through the supply chain and to be dealt with. So very significant impacts, and the cold chain is right in the middle of a lot of those supply issues.
Yeah, I was reading an article the other day that potato fries are off the agenda on a number of restaurants in Australia. I suspect there's going to be a lot of imports taking place.
Yes, look, there will be imports, but they come at a cost, and it takes time, and it's more port movements and container movements and other things which are also not quite in balance, and we're seeing cost pressures in a number of those areas as well. So your ability to quickly get containerised goods and shipping organised, particularly with frozen, is also an issue that a lot of people are dealing with at the moment.
So Graham, we talked about labour and staffing a bit earlier. Logistics Executive Group has been recruiting in the cold chain space for over 20 years. And I must say, from our various offices around the world, demand for talent, and specifically talent, the executive side, mid to senior management, where we operate, but also labour hire has been very, very high. Over the last couple of years, I know your industry in particular has had real challenges attracting and retaining staff in the industry. What can you tell us about those challenges?
Yeah, look, I think, you see it everywhere. You go to a restaurant these days and people are having trouble attracting staff, and the cold chain is no different. A number of people that I've spoken to are having trouble at all levels. I mean, you mentioned, the senior management, mid-management and labour hire. There's been a number of factors that have impacted, and a lot of people blame COVID, but I think some of the signs of this were coming long before COVID hit. And, if I look at, people these days and just from my own experience, people are very discerning about the days they want to work, the hours they want to work. When you run a 7-day, 24-hour business, there's a lot of people that have other options not to participate in those sort of rosters. I think immigration and some of the transient workers have been impacted certainly by COVID and their ability to come into the country, and that's something that we need to look at. But to me, there's a real skills shortage as well, and if we look at trades areas, there is just an acute shortage of people that you can employ to do fundamental electrical, mechanical, and other work in those areas. And you're finding pressures on wages from inflation and everything else, and then you're seeing a shortage where you have to be ultra competitive to attract people, and then even more competitive to attract people to shift work or weekend work. So a number of issues that sit there. And yeah, it's our industry and a number of others, but it's something that certainly our members are really finding difficult at the moment.
I suppose it's all about innovation and highlighting various aspects of the industry that are attractive, because you do have a range of different scenarios for working hours. So that shift work in particular may suit people. So there's all of those factors to be taken into the account, and I'm sure the marketing and HR people in the industry are working overtime in the competitive nature of the way it is.
Absolutely. And look, I think as our industry moves to automation, and certainly New Cold is a company that's very much supporting that. There's some pretty exciting things that are happening in the industry. It's not all about manual work or doing things. There's some pretty exciting aspects to what we do and how things are organised. The digital age is really providing a lot of technology and a lot of skilled roles and good roles. And I think if we market it correctly, people can have a career path in the cold chain and in logistics. It's something that's always there. I know in COVID times it was absolutely critical and important, and I think people will remember that for a long time. So we're not an industry that turned down when the pandemic hit. People are always going to eat. People are always going to require food. They're always going to require distribution. So it's security and I think some exciting prospects there if we can market it correctly.
Well, Graham, that's fantastic. Thanks for sharing your insights with us, both from an Australian and a global perspective. I always like to have our guests leave us with some insight in terms of the industry itself, and maybe in your case you could let us know what you think the best way for people to join the industry would be if they're interested in changing industries. If they want to join a vibrant, expanding industry, as you say, the cold chain certainly is all of that. What would be your recommendation for up-and-comers coming into the industry, or for people wanting to change mid-career to come into cold chain? What would be the best way for them to find out more and enter the industry?
Look, I think there's a number of organisations, major global organisations that are actively recruiting out there, and I think initially, contact people in those industries and the type of roles that you're looking for. And I mean, these days it's everything from the sales roles and customer service to inventory management to trade areas to, logistics, planning. I mean, you name it, there are aspects right throughout the industry where people can be involved. I think there's a number of institutions now that are offering courses in logistics and supply chain specialisation. So, people early on in their careers can, do study in those things. But I think organisations will also now, look to skill people and support their skill acquisition and training and education. There's a number of training facilities that exist there, and whether it be in transport, truck driving, forklift driving,
Sure.
Other areas, there's always the opportunity to improve your skill base. And I think as an association, we're also promoting leadership. We offer the Frank Vale Award as part of the RWTA, and that's looking at emerging leaders and giving them opportunities and exposure. So the association is pushing that. I'm sure refrigeration, warehousing, and transport companies in the industry would be very keen to hear from anybody who has a desire to work in the cold chain. It's certainly a very important and growing industry.
Graham Harvey, Global Vice President, Quality, Safety and Sustainability at Newcold and Chairman of the RWTA in Australia. Thanks for coming on the show. Been great to see you again, Graham, and we look forward to staying in touch with the events around the cold chain industry.
Thank you, Kim, and it's been a pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks so much, and thanks everybody for joining us on Logistics Executive TV.